our culture, which is Eastern European, you plant that by the door and it brings money into you. So I've always, since I was a little girl, I always made sure that I have Linaria by my front door. So Aunt Mary, she knew what she was doing, right? And she instilled in me a passion for plants and natural medicine that, you know, to this day is still there. That passion is still there. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to give to you a little bit of some of her wisdom and some that, you know, I've gained on my journey along the way. So today we're going to talk about the HPA axis. What is that? Why is it important to us? What are some of the triggers? And then we're going to talk about what to do to stay healthy during the winter season, and also what to do if we do get sick as well. Because, you know, like it or not, it's winter time. The calendar says fall, but the plants say winter and the temperature says winter. And at first I thought I was going to fight it. Damn you, winter. So did you notice it snowed last night? It went away. Yay. And then I thought, you know, if I'm going to fight it, I'm just going to be miserable, right? So I'm going to just embrace the winter and whatever happens, but I'm going to be prepared because I'm going to be out around people, as you all are, right? And even tomorrow I'm going to be going on a bike ride, and that is going to be ding dang cold. So I'm kind of excited. And so there are things I'm going to do beforehand. So in case I get a little chill, that won't tip me over an edge, you know. So feel free to ask questions along the way if I go too fast or you need some extra explanation. I'm very good with that. I teach pretty casually. Let's see. So the HPA axis, what is that? That is the hypothalamus, the pituitary, which are right here, and then the adrenal glands, which are on top of your kidneys. So the renal system is your kidneys and, you know, all of the organs that are part of that system. Sometimes you might hear it as the urinary system or the urinary tract. And the adrenals are little glands that sit literally on top of the kidneys, and ad means on top of, and renal is kidneys. So adrenals on top of the kidneys. And these three organs, the glands really, they work together when something happens that freaks us out, right? And it could be, oh, I'm sliding on the ice and there's the stop sign and I'm going to keep going and I can see a car coming that way. And you know how you feel? Like, oh, your heart starts beating and you kind of freak out and your legs get rubbery and all of that. Well, what is happening is we sense the danger, right? Our eyes take in the danger and immediately our hypothalamus says, ah! And sends an alert to the pituitary, and the pituitary sends alert to the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands put out adrenaline and cortisol. And this cortisol and adrenaline, what its function is to help us to get away from the danger, or to fight the danger, or to just freeze, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. You may have heard fight or flight before, but freeze is a component too, right? Because have you ever been so scared you're like, God, right? That's the freeze part. And we can get stuck in that, especially, you know, the last couple of years has been tough on a lot of people, and anxiety levels have never been so high. And my husband was reading an article where there are some anti-anxiety drugs that are really being hard to find because everybody's just going on the anti-anxiety drugs, you know, and there are ways, you know, around that. Some people need them, but there are things that we can do to help calm us, right? So I'm going to be sharing some of that with you all today. So how many of you are newly transplanted here?
Within what time?
Within a couple of years. Just us, huh? So moving is one of the top things that can trigger our stress load, right? Moving marriage, dissolution of a marriage or relationship. What else? Transitioning in and out of jobs.
Taxes.
Pardon?
Preparing
Taxes,
taxes.
yes. The pandemic, to mask or not to mask, that is the question, which is why some of us move to Idaho, isn't it? So what can happen is we get stuck in this fight, flight, freeze, right? So what happens is our adrenaline is always getting produced. Our cortisol is always getting produced. And why that's a detriment is because when that is happening, our digestive system stops completely. Our immune system stops. And that happens so that all of the energy can get flooded into our eyes, our pupils dilate, our heart starts beating faster, so we can get blood to our muscles to move really fast, or to fight. And our breathing gets faster and faster. And when we get stuck in this situation, which a lot of people are these days, we can get what's called adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion. And there's so much that comes with that: heart palpitations, metabolic syndrome, where you're getting, all of a sudden, I'm getting this weight around my middle. What is happening here? So when we have adrenal exhaustion, they're not putting out the cortisol anymore, and they're not putting out the adrenaline. In fact, there are times when we switch and we're putting out no cortisol whatsoever, right? And so we're just fatigued, we're tired all the time. And then we can get really high anxiety or depression. We can't sleep. We're having crazy thoughts, and that's all part of an adrenal dysfunction. And when this is happening, our other glands in the endocrine system will kick in and do the job of the adrenal glands. And you know what that means? Then they're not doing the job that they're supposed to do either. And it's this big snowball effect, and it takes a long time to get to that state, and it takes a long time to heal out of it. So I wrote a book called Quest for Calm, and it talks more about that HPA axis, very sciencey, if you're into the science. And I have lots of things that we can do to calm down that stress reaction, that fight, flight, and freeze reaction. So let me see, where do I go from here? So I would like to do an exercise with you all. And this, for me, this is something that I do with all of my apprentices. Did you get a book? Oh, it's a notebook. You have to have a notebook. Okay. And does everybody have a pen? Everybody has a pen? Okay, so this is an exercise that I do with all of my apprentices every year, and it is super helpful for them. I'm going to set the timer for just maybe 4 minutes because we only have an hour. And what I want you to do is write down everything that brings you calm, everything that makes you feel contented, everything that brings a smile on your face. Well, as much as you can do in 3 minutes, right? And after we're done with that exercise, we're going to have a little discussion about that. So let me start my clock. Let's see, timer for 3 minutes. And are you all ready? Okay, go ahead. Since this is being recorded, we're going to do it for 1 minute. Otherwise, there's going to be a big gap. We have 6 more seconds. Okay, let's stop there, because I saw you were all writing, so I think you have a list. So who would like to share maybe 1 or 2 of their favorite things? I'll pick on you, Mary, because I
put smells, some kind of nostalgic smells like soup, or I personally like the smell of bergamot. It's like just, yeah. And so that kind of brings me back into my space, as well as deep breathing. I mean, that one's kind of like for probably everything.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to share?
Bugs.
Bugs?
Bugs.
Oh.
And heat. Like anything hot, like hot drink, hot sauna, hot sunshine.
Oh, that sounds beautiful this time of year, doesn't it? I love sandalwood oil. Right before I came here, I put it on. Sandalwood oil is so grounding. And so, that kind of wafts up and allows me to go calm down a little bit. I love to be on the beach. I love to go to antique stores and just poke around. Would anyone else like to share?
I like sunrise and alpenglow.
Oh, beautiful. So the purpose of this exercise is to help you to gain a repertoire of things that you can do when you're feeling really stressed out, right? You can always breathe. We pretty much are doing that all the time anyways, right? But we can measure the breathing, 6 in and hold for 6 and 6 out. Or we can do a variety of yogic breathings as well, the measured breathings. What I would encourage you all is to maybe continue this list for yourself. Maybe go home and set your alarm for 10 minutes. And then maybe write it on a beautiful piece of paper or put it in a nice program that'll make you a nice card out of it. Or even just put it on Post-it notes and put it all over your house, in the bathroom mirror, next to your bed, in the kitchen. And so then you always have something handy to turn to when you're feeling all verklempt and, the world is crashing in on me, or I'm just feeling really jittery right now, or I'm feeling, kind of off kilter. And we don't have to do everything on the list if we say, oh gosh, I'm too busy for that. We can't go to Jamaica every day. It's true, right? But there are things we could do every day, or maybe even start out slow and do once a week, right? And then what happens is your body can respond to that calming, and your body says, hey, I want more of that. And it's very uncanny how all of a sudden you will have space open up to start doing things on your list. And that's really one of my favorite things. When I'm stressed out, I go, what are my tools in my tool belt? I call it my tool belt, right? What can I pull out that I can do right now? Maybe it's, finding margins, AKA boundaries. I'm going to say no to something, right? I'm not going to overcommit this week. Even though I said yes, I can still call these people up and say, you know what, actually, I can't do that right now. Because only you know what your limit is, right? And the more we do these things, the more we're able to then calm down. Sometimes we have the stress and anxiety because our neck is out or our back is out, right? We might need to go to the chiropractor. We might need to go to an acupuncturist. Both of those are excellent ways to be able to calm, because when our spine is out, then our electrical system isn't working right, and messages are either overfiring or not getting to the right place, and that can cause anxiety. And that's something that that's usually a big surprise to people. I didn't know my anxiety was being caused by my neck being out, but I went to a chiropractor and instantly I felt calmer. That's really something, right? And we can also do meditation. And people will say, oh, I meditated and then I found calm again. Oh gosh, Well, what is happening is meditation isn't bringing calm into you. What it is doing is letting go of the tightness, maybe in your chest, or the tension that you're feeling, and allowing you to feel the calm that you are naturally born with and naturally housed within you and your soul. And that's the same for yoga too. As we're doing our stretches, we're opening up, allowing to release the bodily tension, and with that also lowers our anxiety as well. Time out in nature, right? Up in the alpenglow, when we're out in nature, what is happening? The plants are putting out oxygen. And what do we need? What do we breathe in? Oxygen. And then what do we breathe out? Carbon dioxide. And guess what the plants take in? Carbon dioxide. And that is an absolute exquisite exchange, right? So when we're out there, we're giving something to the plants and they're giving us something back. It's such a beautiful connection. And oftentimes, now I know here in North Idaho, we're all pretty outdoorsy, right? Because there's skiing and there's boating and there's hiking and cross-country skiing, all the stuff that is available to us here. So we're known for being outdoors a lot, but there are sometimes, other places on the planet where people are shut in their rooms all the time and they miss that connection with nature. And it's so literally grounding to get out there and get your feet on the ground or your butt on the ground and breathe in that good oxygen and see how that lowers your stress level. Are there any skiers here? How do you feel when you ski?
It's exhilarating.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah. And maybe we're stressed out because we're worried if we're gonna, oops, I accidentally, the snow's gonna arrive. Or I accidentally took that chair that goes up to the Black Diamond one. Oh no, and I should be on the bunny hill right now. But nature's providing this amazing, oxygen and beauty that we can focus on instead of, all the other things that, that's going on in the world that can make us feel like we can get overwhelmed pretty quick. So are there any questions so far? Are you learning anything? That is my goal. So I want to shift a little bit into the herbs because I know we don't have a whole lot of time. I have to remind myself, this isn't a 3-hour class. This is a 1-hour class. So I have a lot of things here and I wanted to talk about them. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the fire cider and also my fermented garlic here. Can you smell the garlic? Oh, we will. Oh, we will. So I'm going to open this up. I grew a lot of garlic this year, and one of my favorite things to do with it is to ferment, because eating fermented foods in small quantities feed our gut flora. And our gut, not only does it house all this beautiful flora, all these bacteria colonies and colonies of so many different types of bacteria that are housed in our gut, but also what is happening is they're telling us, they're signaling how we are digesting our food. They're tied into our mental health, and they're tied into our immune system as well. They trigger reactions, and in our gut, in the lining of our small intestines, we have these things called Peyer's patches. And they're basically the tattletale of the immune system, because we'll eat something or, somehow we're drinking water out of a cup that somebody else drank out of that happened to be sick, and we're taking in bacteria or virus, and these Peyer's patches go, oh, hey, you're not supposed to be here. I'm telling on you. And they literally will alert the immune system to go ahead and send out the patrol, right? And the patrol comes out and engulfs these bacteria or viruses or any kind of predators that happen to have made it into our gut, and they'll take care of it. It's pretty amazing stuff. But this is all due to the amount of gut flora that we have and the health of our digestive system. Fermented foods feed the gut, right? Because the fermented foods have some of the very bacteria that are doing all of these different things, signaling our relaxing neurotransmitters, AKA hormones, serotonin and GABA. 85% of our relaxing neurotransmitters, AKA hormones, are created and stored in our small intestine. 70% of our immune activity is happening in our liver and in our small intestines as well. It's really kind of mind-blowing. And you think we have the digestive system and we have the immune system, and never the twain shall meet, but that's not true. They're all very much intertwined. So what fermented foods do is to feed the gut and allow it to do all those amazing jobs that they're meant to do. Now, the caveat with that, here we are in America where it's, if a little bit is going to help, then a lot's going to help more, right? Let's supersize it because that's going to be better. Well, with fermented foods, that is not the case. And what some people will find is if they overeat the fermented foods, they have a histamine reaction. So it puts their immune system right into overdrive. And then there's special little problems that happen when we're chronically inflamed. In fact, science has finally made the discovery in the last few years that chronic inflammation is the source of pretty much every disease that's happening. Oh my goodness. So I had an apprentice many years ago that on the very first day we met, we were harvesting nettles in the middle of the woods, and it was just so beautiful. And I started talking about our digestive system and all of the gut flora and all of the things that the digestive system does. And she started crying. And I said, which happens all the time in my programs. My apprentices cry all the time because it's a wonderful place to be when we're out in the woods and we're learning about our relationship and our place within, the plant world and everything else that lives there. And so they're happy tears a lot. Sometimes though, we're talking about hawthorn and then stuff just comes out. It's just how it is. And I think it's just I create this beautiful place where that's okay. And nobody is judged for that. Well, she was crying and we stopped and I said, what's the matter? And she said, well, you're telling me that too much fermented foods is bad for me. And all of my friends have been telling me to eat more and more fermented foods. She was born with a lot of different diseases and she had a lot of physical challenges. And so she, read somewhere that fermented foods could help her situation indirectly. And she started eating fermented foods and she started feeling worse. And so she thought, well, I'm doing this wrong, so I'm going to eat more fermented foods. And so she's feeling worse. And it was just this thing that was happening. And then she said, I wake up every day, I have sausage fingers, and my ankles are always swollen and I can barely walk and just life is so hard. And I said, why don't you just stop eating fermented foods for a month and then you can add them in a little bit like a condiment versus a meal? Because she was like, have you ever seen someone take a kombucha and drink the whole jar down? Wee! I teach at Bastyr University in Seattle, and I see some of my students, they'll drink 2 or 3 on one of our, herbal adventures out in the woods. And I say, then I have to, talk about fermented foods again. So this gal, she went home, she stopped eating fermented foods and drinking her kombucha. And the next week she came back and she said, I have never felt this good in months and months and months. It was just, such a simple thing for her. But the whole point is we're going to be using fermented foods like they're condiments versus a full meal. Okay, so when I'm making and using fermented foods, what's a condiment? Up to a tablespoon, right? Of your, whatever it is, portino or sauerkraut, up to 2 ounces of your kombucha, not the whole thing, and then you grab another. In fact, when I first heard about kombucha, I was in my 30s. Let's just say that was about 30, more than, well, it was, I'm not going to tell you. It was a long time ago. And I lived in Seattle, and one of my friends says, I've got to let you, I got to take you to meet this woman. She lives in this beautiful house, and she has this thing that she makes called kombucha. And we were like, what is that? It sounded so exotic, you know, and now you can get kombucha at the gas station, you know, it's different. But I went to her house, and she said she called it her little kombucha baby, which was so cute. And she gave me a kombucha baby. Now we call them scobies, right? And she said, never drink more than an ounce or two a day. And she said, or you're going to get sick. But if you drink 1 or 2 ounces a day, it's going to help you clean out. It's going to help your immune system to reset. It's going to help your digestive system to reset and become very healthy, even on, you know, the membranes, the entire canal, right? And all of the organs that are part of the digestive system can be healed too. She said, but just remember, not more than 1 or 2 ounces. And I always remembered that, you know, so that's something that I don't remember her name, but she was a lovely elderly woman. And so I'm going to pass on that knowledge to you. So I have garlic, like I said, it's from my garden. And what garlic does for us, if we're sick or we're around people who are getting sick, is it's going to help kill the viruses that might be within us. Another bonus of garlic is that it opens up the respiratory system, opens up your breathing passages. When COVID started all those years ago, it kind of freaked me out because at first everybody said it was a respiratory virus. Right now we know so much more about it. It's so much more than that. And I was born with scarred lungs, and I've always had lung problems because my mom smoked when she was pregnant with me. And way back then, 1960, now you can do the math. Smoking wasn't considered a bad thing, right? So she didn't know. And so I have always, you know, had problems with my lungs. And so I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to start doing something to help me so I don't get this thing that's this new thing that's out here. So I started eating garlic every single day, and I would eat 2 or 3 cloves of garlic a day. And I could feel within about a half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour, my lungs just, it was like a weight came off of my chest. My breathing got really easy and really soft. Just, it's kind of hard to explain, but the breathing was really deep, really easy. And so, and my husband, no, he wasn't thrilled with that. And, you know, I did that for over a year, every day. And I brought samples today, so if we all eat it, it won't matter. We won't smell the garlic anymore, right? I think that's true. So when I'm fermenting my garlic, why am I doing that? Well, fermented foods, right? I'm adding more gut flora, and I'm also mostly helping my lungs to stay open and stay the breathing to be well. Another reason is it cuts some of the heat. Now I can eat garlic like a champ. Being Eastern European, my great grandfather used to eat an onion every day, and he would just eat it like an apple. My poor great grandma. I don't know how she stood it, but it's the same principle. But he was never sick. And when he died, when he was on his deathbed, he was singing, and he just sang himself into the next world. He was just that healthy. And it was just that he was really, really old and his body just gave out. That's what it was. But he didn't die sick. And he claimed, you know, the onions kept him healthy. So for me, it's in my blood to eat, you know, the plants in the allium family, like the garlic and the onions as well. And I'm going to read a little bit. I teach a phytochemistry class. And I'm not doing I am doing fireside chats this winter, but I'm not doing the biochemistry class per se, but it is going to be up on my website for super cheap for people to purchase, because I taught it, early last winter, and we did all the recordings, and you get a PDF with it, and then you get the audio of my talk, and they're put together, so you're not just like listening to some random me talking, but you get to follow along with the PDF. So this is from that. So I'm going to talk about anthocyanins. And anthocyanins, they're the red, the purple, and the blue colors in plants. And these are in the umbrella of the antioxidants. So when people think cyanin, oh, that's cyanide, right? So that's bad for us, right? No, that's a totally different thing, anthocyanins. They are, as a group, glycosides. Now, in the plant world, the anthocyanins are part of the plant's defense system, right? Because the plant can't eat some garlic if it has a virus, right? It can't go to the doctor or the naturopath or, the acupuncturist if it gets sick. It has to produce its own defense substances, right? So glycosides in the plant world are either medicines or they're poisons. But part of the their defense is what helps us to defend against the viruses and the bacteria and things that come into us. So we want to make sure if we're taking in plant glycosides, they're the good kind for us and not the bad kind. So come to a plant walk with me next year when the snow is all away. I'm going to do a couple of plant walks. So what do anthocyanins do? They boost the immune system. That's good, because we want our immune system to be as strong as possible to deal with the stuff that, is coming our way. Last Thursday, I was in the Canada Theater, and I realized I was this far away from the person in front of me, which means the person behind me was pretty close too, and they were coughing. And I went, oh, goodness. So I'll talk about that in a minute, what I did when I came home. So boosting the immune system, fighting viruses, balancing blood sugar. If our blood sugar is out of whack, our immune system is going to be out of whack too. If we have too much sugar in our system, our immune system plummets, right? So we want to make sure if we're taking in sugar, tiny amounts, especially this time of year, and these anthocyanins in, say, cabbage and elderberries and hawthorn raspberries and Oregon grapes, they all can, anything that's red, like a red, what's red? Strawberry, red pepper, what's radish, what's blue? Blueberries. How about purple? Grapes, purple potatoes, what did you say? Eggplant? Purple cabbage, red onions. They all contain these immune boosting and virus fighting anthocyanins. They're also supporting our heart health, and they're anti-inflammatory as well, which is fantastic. And guess what? Garlic and onions contain anthocyanins. And you think, how is that if I just said that anthocyanins are red and blue and purple? I haven't seen any purple garlic lately, have you? I haven't. Purple skin, but we're not eating the skin. But if you put garlic into vinegar, oftentimes it turns blue. Have you ever seen that? Oh gosh, it's true. And if we make garlic and onion salt, which is one of my all-time favorite things to do, I chop up my onions, my garlic, and then I put it roughly, and I put it in a food processor. So if I have a cup of onions, I'm going to be putting in a cup of salt. And I love the Himalayan pink mineral salt because there's lots of minerals in there, right? So I'm getting some minerals in my system. And I whirl that up, and it's going to get really, really wet, kind of. So I'm going to add another cup of the salt and whirl it up, and I'm going to put it on silicone mats or maybe parchment paper, And then I'm going to stick it in my dehydrator, and it could take about a day or so, maybe a day and a half to dry. And guess what color the salt turns? It's kind of a greeny blue. And that's the anthocyanins that are coming out. It's pretty amazing stuff.
So you just use onion and Himalayan salt, you didn't mention how much garlic.
Whatever. So if it's a cup, you can do half and half. If you like more onion taste than garlic taste, you can put in more onions. And how much of each is really up to you, as long as it adds up to the cup. And it's pretty neat, the color that it will turn. And I layer my herbs throughout the day. So I'm not, because you think, how am I going to get enough anthocyanins in my salt to make it worthwhile? Well, you're not, right? So I'm going to maybe slice up some of the fermented garlic or just plain raw garlic and put it on the international vehicle for herbal medicine, which is, anybody know what that is? Toast. That's right. So make yourself some toast, put some nut butter or regular butter on it, and then put your slices of your garlic or even onions on that. And it's that nut butter and the bread, whether it's gluten-free or not, it's going to take out some of that burn, right? And it actually tastes really, really good. And if Elvis can eat peanut butter and bananas or pickled, whatever it was that he ate, then you all can eat garlic toast. It's really good. But the key is that you really want it raw, right? Because that's going to help the respiratory system much better than dried.
How do you make a fermented garlic?
Okay, good question. So I peel my garlic and I just put it in the jar and I go, I've been going through this for a while. So I would put it up to about right here with the garlic. And then I'm going to add a 3% brine. So look that up, whatever 3% is, because you're all staring at me and I can't do the math right now. But Uncle Google has all the answers for that. So it's a measure of salt and you want to use pickling salt, right? That's what I use, pickling salt, or just plain sea salt. Celtic sea salt works really well. And I'm going to put cover it with the water up until just this, where the screw part is. And then I use a pickling weight. That's just a glass weight that you put on top of that. And you see, you might wonder, what are these little flecks on the bottom? This is dried thyme and oregano. And I just put a little sprinkle in that. And then I stick it out on the counter for about 3 days, for about 4 or 5 days. And then it goes right in the refrigerator. And this I made, gosh, a good 2 months ago. Oh, it's so good. So before we all leave, you're going to be able to try some of that. So another way to use the onions and garlic is with fire cider. And I was going to strain it out and then, have you all try it. But what I wanted you to see, what's more important, is how tiny my little pieces are. And when we're on Pinterest or Instacrack or Facepalm, and we're seeing, all the herbalists doing their fire cider, what are we seeing usually? Whole pieces of garlic and whole peppers and big chunks of stuff, right? And you're not going to get an effective medicine that way. It looks really good on social media, but the medicine is going to be bad. And so think about it this way. Let's pretend that door is closed. That door is closed. All these windows are closed. How easy is it for us to get out or anybody to get in? Near to impossible, right? So we want to open up the doors. We want to open up the windows to allow the menstruum, which is in this case, the vinegar, to be able to come in, pull out, say we're anthocyanins and we're other kind of antioxidants, maybe we're alkaloids, and we want to get out in the juice. right, in the remedy itself. So we have to have those doors and windows open. So that means you're chopping as small as you possibly can. Now that is a fire cider that's going to be very effective. And one of the reasons it's effective is it tastes hot because there's jalapeno peppers in there, and there's garlic, and there's ginger, and there's horseradish. What else did I put in there? Did I say onions, garlic, horseradish? I put tangerines in there, including the peels. Lots of vitamin C in the peels, and lots of other antioxidants in the peels and in the pulp, that white stuff in the inside of the peel that are very good for boosting the immune system and killing viruses as well. So that all gets chopped up, fill up the jar, and then I'm always using unpasteurized apple cider vinegar. And the reason I use unpasteurized is it has some probiotics in it already. And so that's going to be, you know, super helpful for my digestive system. And it has its own medicine itself. So, and apple cider vinegar, I know, is coming from apples, and it's raw, which means unpasteurized, and it's organic. So I'm not getting any chemicals, you know, that might have been sprayed on other apples. And if we're using white vinegar, it comes from corn. And if we're getting just, you know, the standard non-organic, it's GMO corn, right? And I don't want to use GMO anything in any of my herbal medicine, because my goal is to have as strong and effective medicine as I possibly can for myself, for my loved ones. Maybe, you know, if you're going to start an herbal business, you want to be known to make really good medicine, right? So we're going to start with really good ingredients that are processed really well. So the last thing I want to talk about with the onions and garlic, can you tell us one of my favorite things, is a really cool way to utilize the onions. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut little half moons with the onion, and it's fresh onion. So just like this. This is the coolest knife for cutting herbs as you can possibly get. You can just see here. It cuts very well. You've got to watch your fingers. And if I wanted to, then I can, you know, you rock it like this, and it's super easy to get your herbs all nice and, whoops, and chopped up well, opening up those doors and windows. So I'm just breaking this up, and I want to fill up this jar. Talk amongst yourselves. I might need a little bit more, but this, whoops, it's very lively. We're not going to use that one. Who knows where these boots have been? I have chickens, I have geese that poop everywhere. You don't want anything that my feet might have stepped on. Okay, I want to fill my jar up pretty far, but I don't want any of the onions poking out either. So I think this looks pretty good. So really, it's just up again to the bottom of the, what do you call this part? What? The rim. Well, the screwy part. Now I want to put in a splash of apple cider vinegar, because the rest of it is going to be with honey. I'm not a super fan of, you know, the honey. Well, I love honey itself, but I'm not a super fan of super sweet. So I'm just putting in a splash, and then I'm going to fill it up with honey. And the reason I put the vinegar in first is because it's a lot easier to put in the vinegar and have it go all the way down fast than wait for the honey to go down. So does that make sense? You're all staring at me. Come take my classes when I'm out in the woods. I'm totally different.
So what's your website so we can find out about them?
I'm going to write you a check for that. It's cedarmountainherbs.com.
It's on the front of your notebook.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
it's on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
as you can see, I put honey in here as much as I could, and it's gonna take some time to go all the way down. In the meantime, I've got these bubbles coming up. So as I can, I'm going to add more honey. Yum. And so I want to make sure the honey is completely covered. And I already have a label on here, but what I want to add is the date, right? So normally when we're making an herbal honey, we're going to strain the plant material out after, say, about a month. In this case, we're going to leave the onions in there, and we can put that on our toast, or we can put that on whatever you don't mind that taste. Some people will just eat it, you know, and what's happening with the honey is hygroscopic, and that means it draws water to it. So all of those good water soluble constituents that are in the onions, which is the anthocyanins, they're water soluble. They're going to say, oh, honey, honey. And they're going to come out of the onions and just go into that honey. And then as we're using that honey, the honey all of a sudden tastes oniony, but it has a nice little bite from the vinegar, and it has that sweet taste too. So let's
let it sit though.
For how long?
Oh, you just put this in your refrigerator and you just start eating it.
Just whenever.
Just whenever. Yep.
So you
So,
don't strain out yet.
oh, I wouldn't. No, because you're gonna eat the onions and you're gonna eat the honey. And the honey is gonna get really runny as it's pulling out this water soluble, the water, and you know, the water solubles are coming out with it. And the honey is gonna get really runny, so you can put it in your smoothies. You can put it, what are you gonna put onion honey in? I'm actually very curious. I just eat it myself, because remember, I'm Eastern European, that's what we do.
It sounds like something.
On toast.
Or like a stir fry or something.
Oh,
Sounds
yeah.
nice.
That would be good. That'd be really good. So onions and garlic, they both contain salicylates. Salicylates are another form of antioxidants, and they are anti-inflammatory, and they're pain relieving as well. And they're very cooling. So onions and garlic, even though you think of onions and garlic as heating, they're actually going to help to bring down a fever, which is really, really cool. And they contain a lot of selenium. And selenium is a micromineral. A micromineral is a mineral that we don't need a lot of. So we just need micro amounts. But it has enough in there. And selenium helps to govern how much sleep we... Hi, George. Hey, good. How are you? How much, small town, how much sleep we get, right? The strength and the growth of our hairs and our nails. What else does it do? Our teeth. With selenium, we get less cardiovascular disease. It increases antioxidant capabilities. Now, that's pretty cool because the antioxidants that are killing viruses and even killing maybe cancer cells that are, you know, in us, it's also going to give a boost to that ability. That's what selenium does. Says, here, let me take you right to where you need to go. And I'm going to give you like an extra charge to be able to do that. How are you all doing? Because I see a lot of yawns. Is it the lateness?
I started
The sun
down
went
an hour and a half ago.
It's not the topic.
No, it's very interesting.
Okay. So I'm just going to keep adding that to the honey to the jar as needed. I'm going to shift over here to elderberries. I have a completely different take on elderberries than most herbalists and what you'll see on the internet. And if you go on my website, cedarmountainherbs.com, you can go click on articles, and I wrote an article called The Truth About Elderberries. And you can read my take on it. I only use fresh elderberries, and that makes most people in the herbal world go, what? You're gonna kill yourself and you're gonna kill other people. And I can tell you, I haven't died from eating raw elderberries or any of my raw elderberry remedies. And none of my students have, none of my customers. I had an herbal business for 27 years and I never killed a single person
Gold
Yes,
star.
thank you very, very much. So there is Sambugrin in the seeds of and that's a glycoside that is no bueno to us, right? But when we're processing our elderberries, we're not eating this, we're not eating the seeds and we're not breaking them open, right? So recently somebody from Ohio sent me an email and he was asking about that article and he says, well, I want to use a cider press because I have a huge quantity of elderberries. Can I use my cider press? And I said, I would really hope you wouldn't do that because the cider press really will press it down, right? And it could break open those seeds. We don't want that. But the reason why I use fresh is because it has a polysaccharide, which is kind of this mucilage, this kind of snotty feeling looking thing, substance around the seed. And polysaccharides are super bueno to your immune system, boosts and heals your immune system and helps it to work at really tip-top shape, right? And so when I'm preparing my elderberries, I harvest them, I put them in the freezer, and then I can take off the stems very, very easily that way. And that's called garbling. You're just literally going with the berries and they come off the stems. And then I put them in this big bowl and fill it up with water and all the rest of the stems come up and then you pour it out. And then I'm taking those, the berries in a bowl and I'm just going like this. And I'm just breaking open, what color are they again? All those anthocyanins that are in the skin and in the juice are coming out and I'm going to get that mucilage that's so immune healing, but I'm not breaking open the seeds. I'm not banging them. And then I'm making I have an elderberry honey. I have an elderberry that's mullein, an elderberry cinnamon, star anise tincture that I have here. And I'm not harming myself or others. Now, there was a study, and I have this in my article, back in the 1980s. Do you remember anybody born back in the 80s? Oh, am I the only one? Oh, gosh. Well, there was a group of people who drank big tumblers full of freshly juiced elderberries, and then they got gastric upset so bad and they ended up in the hospital and they said they got poisoned by elderberries. Well, it's a fine line between poison and your body is doing what it's meant to do, right? So what was in that juice was lectins, Lectins. Oh, I just thought you were all my apprentices. I'm spelling out the big words. It could happen. The apprenticeship starts in May, just saying. And so those lectins are not digested or broken down by our body. And our body sees them and they go, holy crap, let's get out of here. We got to get them out of here. So you know what happens? It's coming out this way or it's coming out this way. That's not poison. That's just our body saying, I can't digest this. I got to get it out of here. And so that's what happened to those people. But thanks to the beauty of the internet and every mommy blog out there, there is, everybody says that fresh elderberries are poisonous and you're going to die if you eat them or drink the juice. Now, I'm using fresh elderberries. Am I going to use all of this honey at one time? No, I'm not, right? I'm going to use it by the little teaspoon. Am I going to take, this whole elderberry tincture in one day? No, I'm not. I'm going to take, maybe a quarter teaspoon a few times a day. And then it's going to help me as an antiviral. It's going to help me to relieve symptoms. So I can take it if people around me are getting sick or if I'm feeling sick myself. And what I like to put with the elderberries are spilanthes. Spilanthes is a low-growing plant, commonly known as the toothache plant. That's, that really narrows down what its many superpowers are. It has some of the same alkamides, aka lipids, that echinacea does. So have any of you ever taken echinacea and you feel that tingly? Well, it's the same in spilanthes, right? And so what do? That also boosts the immune system. It also kills viruses. Now, a few weeks ago, two friends of mine said that they called me up and said, well, I have COVID. Now they're in Washington, so I was sad for them, but I wasn't worried that I was going to get it. But for them, they said it started out with a sore throat and then a headache and then the achies. And it got really bad for them, but they're fine now. And it was about 2 weeks later, I got a sore throat and then I got achy and I got a headache and I went, ah! So I started taking my elderberry spilanthes tincture and I added with it, I don't know if I brought it with me, yes, my Oregon grape and grand fir and burdock tincture. And I would take, was quite a bit, it was 6 to 7 dropperfuls for the first few days every 2 hours. And my symptoms went wee like this. And if I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I did a few squirts. And within, I would say, about 4 days, I felt absolutely fine. So who knows? Did I have the Rona? I don't know. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Or maybe I had the pan at a theater, someone coughing on me virus. I don't know. But the moral of that story is herbs work if you prepare them correctly and then use them correctly as well. So how are you all doing? Good? I'm not done yet. Oh, I guess I kind of am. Just really, I want to tell you about a couple of other things really quick. Is that okay? So I have from realmushrooms.com, I get their mushroom extracts. What I like about them is they use the fruiting body. The fruiting body is where more of the beta glucans and other polysaccharides are, the anti-cancer and the immune boosting. And I use their five defenders, it's called. And I take capsules every single day. And I have it here like this too. I can put this in smoothies. I had it today with about half a teaspoon of this with some roasted dandelion root that I harvested and roasted myself. And then, well, my whitener of choice is half and half, so I threw some half and half in there too. And that's what and so I'll try to drink that once a day. And it's not only boosting my immune system, but it's helping me to sleep better at night. Now, if we're not getting enough sleep, we get sick. It's just a given, right? So I won't do the dandelions at night because I get kind of speedy from dandelions. There's no caffeine in it, but for me, some reason, there's something in it that speeds me up. But I'll drink some of the 5 defenders or just reishi every night. I'm going to be doing a triple mushroom extract and mushroom cream class. I think it's in January. And if you look on my website, I have twice a month, just tiny little 2-hour classes in my kitchen, because I think it's really smart to be in community during the winter months when, it gets dark so fast and people can get isolated. And so get around like-minded people, learning about plants, and it's a very casual and comfortable place to be. And then, so look that up, my classes. This here is rosehip jelly. It's so good. So what I'm going to do with it is when you come up to try some of these things, I have some yogurt. I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to put some elderberry honey on that. You can put some of the jelly on the crackers. Super easy. I got my rose hips at Tendril, where I met Mary. Okay. And you put in the rose hips, and they're tiny little pieces, so they're all chopped up. Not quite halfway full. And then I filled it up to the top with apple cider. And then overnight it became jelly. Oh my gosh. And you think, well, there's a lot of sugar in that because the apple cider, right? So I'm not eating this whole jar at once, but I can eat some. The cool thing about the plants in the rose family, the hips, rose hips and hawthorn berries, apples contain a lot of pectin. In fact, if you ever make jelly with pectin, that's made from apples, right? So the pectin comes out and creates this beautiful, it's not overly sweet. It tastes really good. And pectin is another one of those polysaccharides that boost your immune system and then help you to be very vigorous and healthy any time of year, and especially this time. So if you wanted to try this on your own, make it, you can go to Tendril and get some of the rose hips.
So you didn't process that?
No, because if you're picking your own rose hips, you're going to be cutting, scooping out those irritating hairs and the seeds. Now those hairs have little barbs on it, and if you eat them, they get stuck all the way, right? So it's no bueno. It's not a good feeling, right? At one time I bit, into a rose hip just to try it, because I do things, and my tongue, it felt like there were tiny little barbs in my tongue. It's no fun, right? So what I did, I scoop that out, I scoop out the hairs, and then I put the flesh in a bowl of water, and the hairs go up, just like the elderberry stems float up. And I'm gonna pour off that water, and then I'm gonna put more water in and kind of stir it around, not with my hand, but with a spoon, pour it out. I'm not straining it out, I'm just pouring it out, right? Because the strainer will hold on to those hairs, and then I'm putting them back in. And it usually takes about 10 or 12 stir arounds and rinse to get the hairs out. Then I can do my processing, right? I can put those in stir fry. I can make an oxymel, which is, I use 2/3 honey and 2/3 apple cider vinegar and 1/3 honey. Vinegar is pulling out all of the water solubles and some other components of the plants as well. And rose hips are really good for strengthening the veins and the arteries and the capillaries. So if, I'm not saying any of you, but hemorrhoids, no, you don't have to raise your hand, but it helps to heal hemorrhoids and varicose veins, wherever they may be, little spider veins, broken capillaries. Those are just spider veins. So anywho, not just boosting the immune system, but great heart health as well. Seeing if there's any last minute thing. Oh, and then aromatherapy, just super quick. Aromatherapy is such a great thing, but it's such a dangerous thing too. Essential oils can be dangerous. And I had a conversation with a bunch of ladies on Monday, and I'm not going to mention the companies, but there are companies out there that tell you to put essential oils in water and drink them. Oh my gosh. And feed it to your babies. Put essential oil straight on your baby's feet, calm them down, or to boost your immune system. That, my friends, is not a smart thing to do. Essential oils are so strong. They're part of the plant's attraction and defense as well, right? Essential oils oftentimes are there to kill things, to kill intruders, whatever they may be. So when we're taking essential oils, putting them in water, this gal tried to defend it and say, but lemon oil and water makes water taste so good. I said, so when you're drinking that lemon essential oil, and one drop of essential oil can contain up to 300 or more different types of terpenes, and they're all out there to kill, right? So I said, you're drinking that, and the essential oil is coating your esophagus and your stomach, and it's passing through into your gut. It's killing your gut flora. It's irritating the membranes. You can damage yourself. It's going into your bloodstream and crossing the blood-brain barrier as well. Oh my gosh. That's where really the rubber hits the road. We don't want to do that. So how, now that you're all afraid to ever use essential oils again, what are we going to do? Well, we can put them into diffusers, right? I put them on my clothes, right? And I have this is lavender oil from Selly Valley Lavender Farm. You're welcome to open it up. It smells so good. I put that on my pillow, but I'm not putting it inside my body. Granted, our skin is an organ, right? That's there to protect what's inside from what's outside, and it does let things out. So things go in, things go out, because our skin is permeable. So whatever we put on our skin can go into our bloodstream as well. Right? So we have to be careful with that. I like spraying essential oils in the bathroom, on the couches, but again, I'm not putting it inside of me. And some of the great essential oils for, if you're feeling sick, lavender is calming. Eucalyptus and peppermint help you to open up your breathing passages. I like to make a nice breathe easy balm with peppermint oil and some menthol crystals. Does Laura sell menthol crystals at General? Nice. Yeah. And camphor. Oh, that's good to know. So tomorrow at 5:30 to 6:30 online, Heather Bruno, who is my Seattle instructor, she's going to be doing a winter essentials talk. Super cheap, $25. It's online, so you could be wearing your pajamas and be at home. Have your dog or your cat on your lap while you're taking the class. And the classes that we do online are all recorded, and they will be put on the website later for people, so you can buy them and then have them forever. So are there any burning questions that you may have?
Do you know what about chaga?
Well, yes, chaga is not a true mushroom. It's a canker. It's actually the trees, usually the birch trees' immune system reaction. Bye, Christina. Thanks
Thank
for
you very
coming.
much.
Yes, thank you. It's the birch tree's immune reaction to an interloper, which is the chaga mycelium. So it's this big kind of thing, but it's super duper strong for our immune system, right? And it helps to kill cancer cells. It's anti-inflammatory. So it's in this 5 defenders. So it's something that I take every single day. So do you want to try some samples? Come on up.
Suzanne, I freeze